Spirit Airlines. Spirit built its identity around one idea: the cheapest ticket on the board. For years, it worked. Then a Frontier merger collapsed, the JetBlue acquisition was blocked in court, and $2.5 billion in losses piled up. Spirit filed for Chapter 11 in November 2024, briefly emerged, then filed again in August 2025. On May 2, 2026, it ceased all operations, the final blow delivered by jet fuel made unaffordable by war in Iran. The airline that made flying brutally cheap couldn't survive when the one cost it couldn't control ran out of control. Pan American World Airways. Pan Am defined what international travel was supposed to look like. First transatlantic jet service, first to order the 747, flying to 86 countries at its peak. Then fuel crises, deregulation, the Lockerbie bombing, and the Gulf War bled it dry. On December 4, 1991, it ceased operations. An airline that circled the globe for 64 years vanished overnight. Trans World Airlines. Hughes built TWA into a rival to Pan Am. Deregulation, a hostile ICANN takeover, and mounting debt began the slide. The 1996 explosion of Flight 800 killed 230 people and accelerated the collapse. 3 bankruptcies later, American Airlines absorbed TWA in 2001. One of aviation's great names vanished into a line in an annual report. Eastern Airlines. Eastern was once the most profitable airline in the United States. A mechanic strike in 1989 grounded the fleet, and management's refusal to negotiate turned it into a death sentence. Eastern ceased operations in January 1991. 62 years of flying undone by a conflict it chose not to resolve. Braniff International Airways. Braniff repainted its fleet in colors never before seen on a commercial jet. Powder blue, ochre, turquoise, orange, the end of the plain plane. Deregulation caused it to overexpand beyond what it could sustain. In May 1982, it became the first major U.S. carrier to fail post-deregulation, grounding its fleet overnight. Gate agents learned from the news. Passengers showed up to empty counters. Midway Airlines. Midway launched in 1979 at Chicago's Midway Airport, when every other carrier had moved to O'Hare. For a decade, it competed hard as a low-cost alternative. 11 days after September 11th, it ceased all operations, stranding thousands and leaving employees without severance. ATA Airlines. ATA began flying military charters in 1973 before growing into the 10th largest U.S. carrier. After 9/11, it survived on government loans, which bought time, not stability. Rising fuel prices and a codeshare collapse triggered a second bankruptcy. ATA shut down in April 2008 with no warning beyond the website message. Southwest took its slots. Everything else simply stopped. Comair. Comair started in Cincinnati in 1977 with 3 propeller planes and grew into the world's largest regional airline as Delta Connection, serving 83 destinations. It was the U.S. launch customer for the Bombardier regional jet, but success made it entirely dependent on Delta. When Delta filed for Chapter 11 in 2005, Comair went with it. Delta shut it down in July 2012, not from competition or crisis, but because its owner decided it was no longer worth keeping. Virgin America. Virgin America launched in 2007 with mood lighting, leather seats, and a cabin that made every other domestic airline feel like a bus with wings. It won Best Domestic Airline 10 consecutive years, but it could never make the economics work at scale. Alaska Air Group acquired it in 2016 for $2.6 billion, and on April 24, 2018, the brand was retired. It disappeared not because it failed, but because it succeeded well enough to be worth buying. US Airways. US Airways was built through decades of mergers. Allegheny became US Air became US Airways. 2 post-9/11 bankruptcies survived, then a merger with American Airlines in 2013. On October 17, 2015, the last flight landed and the name was quietly retired. No collapse, no crisis, just a deliberate erasure. The most orderly ending on this list, which somehow makes it the strangest one.